In a Nutshell, a reflection for the 31st Sunday in Ordinary Time. In today's reading from the Gospel according to St. Mark, a scribe approaches Jesus with an honest question. Which is the first of all the commandments? In contrast with the usual behavior of scribes in the Gospel accounts, this fellow appears genuinely interested in Jesus' opinion on a nagging question. In a religious tradition with some 600 laws, how does one prioritize, summarize, or even sort the various precepts, ordinances, and decrees into a coherent guide for living? The Torah, law, was supposed to be a gift, a steady guide for the people of Israel to help them live well in faithful covenant with God. Our first reading from the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy makes this clear. Moses predicts positive consequences for those who fear the Lord and keep God's commandments throughout their lives. Keeping in mind the context of communal culture that underlies both the Old and New Testament scriptures, the people living in right relationship with God, according to the Torah, will live long, grow, prosper, and find their promised land fruitful. Today's passage concludes with the first of the two commandments that Jesus cites in the Gospel. The Lord is our God, the Lord alone, signifies the singular relationship of this God to this people. Still polytheistic in their thinking, assuming the existence of many gods, this people has been chosen by this God and drawn into relationship by God's mighty deeds. The concrete memory of liberation and deliverance from slavery and desert danger supports this conviction. Therefore, the people owe the Lord God their undivided allegiance, expressed in faithful observance of the commandments. By the time of Jesus, a vast array of laws had accumulated, and obedience had become a specialty of the learned. These privileged types, scribes, Pharisees, made it their business to instruct the masses in proper worship and conduct. But the core of the law, right relationship with God, was lost in translation. Ordinary folk simply struggled under a crushing burden. The scribe's question gives Jesus the perfect opening, and he answers, drawing from Deuteronomy. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And then from Leviticus, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. In Matthew's version of the conversation, Jesus adds, the whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments. Bringing these two great commandments together, Jesus reveals their integral relationship. That is, one cannot claim to love God while dismissing one's neighbor. The scribe affirms this nutshell version of the Torah, putting it ahead of burnt offerings and sacrifices. The specifics of temple observance thought essential by the religious authorities mentioned above. Even with this organizing principle for holy life, in another smaller nutshell, intimacy with God, compassion for people, we would still be lost without Jesus. He shows us how to live out our primary allegiance to God with wholeness of heart, soul, mind, and strength. He demonstrates how compassion in action best expresses commitment to God and God's reign in the world. He draws us into his life, his faith, his relationship to the Father through baptism and the Eucharist. And he energizes and equips us for our vocation as his disciples by the power of the Spirit. Thus, communion with Jesus Christ reveals our path to holiness.